Space Ace, defender of justice, truth, and the planet Earth.
You have been recruited by the Star League to defend the frontier against Zur and the Kodan Armada.
My dad was right. I don't want to play anymore.
It's the video game years, and this is 1984.
Alex is going for the record!
The systems, the culture, the games. A shiny marble rolls through arcades.
I like it when the marble dies, it just kind of screams.
Sierra embarks on a big adventure.
Look at Bush, grab sword, and touch Pat.
Why is this getting sexual?
I don't know.
And 2 video game films hit the screen.
How cool is that? That's just, when you're a kid, that's the kind of thing you dream of happening to you.
Plus an animated space adventure, and Capcom earns its wings. So deliver all those newspapers and practice that sidekick. Get ready for 1984.
So near the end of 1984, Atari Games put out their classic Marble Madness.
Yeah, Marble Madness, the first game to ever have the player be a marble.
Marble Madness. Really, there's nothing funner than playing with balls. Marbles.
You had a marble, you had a trackball in the middle to control your marble through, what was it, like a half a dozen courses? Really fun, really original concept.
I always loved the isometric sort of like MC Escher kind of artwork where it like a staircase goes up but goes down simultaneously. It just had this weird look.
It's the only video game ever where the controller is your main character, basically. You're a big blue ball, and that's what you're controlling.
It's almost like when you play iPhone games today, you really felt like you were controlling what was on the screen.
This is probably the most appropriate use of a trackball in a game. I mean, it's like marble shaped, and the way you move around just makes sense because you're moving a marble.
One idea that they didn't implement, which I thought they should have, was some sort of like trackball with force feedback.
How would that work?
Well, to compensate for the inertia of the ball keep rolling and you're going to have to go against it. But they didn't. It worked out fine.
And the cool thing about the courses, though, is that you can take risks. Sometimes there are shortcuts and alternate paths, or if you can be a little fancier, know what you're doing, you can shave off a few precious seconds.
It's really fitting that they named it Marble Madness because the game drove me out of my mind. Like, I lost my marbles.
As much as I liked the idea of Marble Madness, that game is viciously difficult.
It's hard.
I like it when the marble dies, it just kind of screams.
Who knew? These little glass balls had feelings and emotion.
This slow-ass broom and dustpan comes out and sweeps up your ball and wastes like 5 seconds off the clock.
Takes a sweet-ass time, it does.
Sweet-ass time. I hate that damn thing, and I always wish for that dumb magic wand to come down and give me 10 more seconds, but it never does.
Marble Madness was one of the first games to use true stereo sound, and it sounded awesome. The music is really great in this game.
Stereo sound, great soundtrack. Really underrated soundtrack for the time, and experimental, and yeah, it's fun.
Mark Cerny was only 18 years old when he designed and co-programmed Marble Madness. A really neat fact about Mark Cerny is that he still works in the industry today. In fact, if you didn't know, he's the lead architect on the PlayStation 4. That's right. He went from programming games to designing consoles. Talk about a big career.
It led to decades of marble-related games.
Yeah.
Thank you, Atari. This would be the first of probably about 10 or so Atari mid-80s arcade games that were all original control schemes. Marble Madness sort of led the way there.
The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, not just a series of crazy British humor books by Douglas Adams, but also a crazy British humor interactive fiction game by Douglas Adams.
I don't care much for the game, but it is written well and it's pretty funny. There's an object in there that says that thing that your aunt gave you that you don't know what it is or something.
You
switch through a number of different characters. You play as a number of different characters. You can play as Zaphod Beetlebrox, you can play as Arthur Dent, you can play as Ford Prefect.
It contained not only all the great humor that was found in the books, but it also was kind of infamous for its difficulty.
Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy was one of those games, and these were common in the 80s, where if you did something wrong, the game was unwinnable.
You input commands that the computer doesn't understand. You die. You suck at this game. Don't panic, I guess.
There was challenges that made absolutely no sense, which kind of, when you look at the source material, yeah, okay.
You have to get the Babelfish. And you had to do it, and there was a very specific sequence of events, and it was timed. You could only make a certain number of moves before the game would you would lose. It wouldn't kill you outright, but you just couldn't progress any further.
You have to do so many crazy things. Eventually, the company released t-shirts saying that you conquered the Babelfish, portion of the game. And
there was a number of really cool feelies that were included in the box.
Like a pin that says "Don't panic," or a little piece of paper that says, this is the Arthur Dent's house destruction order, things like that.
Danger-sensitive sunglasses, which were just black cardboard that you put on, so they were always sensing danger. And there was an empty plastic bag with a label on it that said Microscopic Starfleet.
That's awesome.
Even today, you got people going for the ultimate editions of certain games just because they have art books or this or that and the other. But this was like the golden age of including crap with video games.
If you like difficult games and you're interested in text adventures, Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, in my opinion, is one of the best ones that you can check out.
Tag Team Wrestling.
So Tag Team Wrestling came out, was published by Data East.
Can you imagine the first time walking up to that cabinet and dropping your quarter in and being like, I'm going to play a wicked sweet wrestling game, and then you go to attack the guy and a text list appears and you pick your move from a text list.
There's a movie called The Nutter,
which was some kind of headlock, I'm guessing in front of the groin.
It is fun though, how you can do the moves off the ropes and do the flying drop kicks, and you can tag in your opponents.
The tag team element is kind of interesting because from a first, a single player tag team kind of mechanic is similar to later fighting games where you would swap out players in a single.
Like a Tekken tag or Street Fighter Cross.
Yeah.
The coolest thing about it was it did introduce cut play. Like if you were to put a guy in a submission and it's like
you make a submission.
that they can come out and intercept it.
Oh, they could.
So they tried.
I mean, the game itself it's an okay game. It's not horrible. It's not great by any means. But it was the first game in the history of video games to introduce tag team wrestling into arcade games and video games.
Well, my idea is always to try to bring the best technology at the lowest price to the masses. We are a company which we like to sell to the masses, not to the classes.
Okay. Atari had huge losses, in particular, the year previous, and they're out. They're done. Warner Communications is like, no. We gotta sell this crap.
When Warner sold Atari, they sold it to the Tramiels, who had every intention of continuing the thing. So it really wasn't the end of anything. It was the end of a dream. It was not the end of an era.
So Warner Communications unloads the home computing division and such to Jack Tramiel, who is one of the guys behind Commodore.
Tramiel paid $240 million in promissory notes based on Atari's future performance. They basically loaned him the money to buy the company.
Bam, there you go. You get Atari. And he fix it up, have fun. We're gonna go over here and we're gonna create Animaniacs or something.
Tramiel ruled with an iron fist and got rid of as many people as he could. He thought that he could double or triple the profits at Atari. Well, stay tuned to see how that goes.
When the Tramiels came in, they started to take Atari to places where maybe it needed to go, but no one who was there was interested in going. So that's why it went from 2,000 employees to 200 employees in a couple of weeks. They just decimated the place.
One of his Tramielisms was, business is like sex. You gotta be involved. I kinda like that guy.
It was the fastest growing company in the history of the United States. And then it became the fastest falling company in the history of the United States. In the scope of like 4 years, I saw both of those sides.
Video games are seen as a fad, and they're done with. It's like, okay, that was cute. We're done with that. Now let's get some Teddy Ruxpins and play with those. That's what the kids want nowadays. Rah.
So get ready for 1984 where we talk about board games.
Kids want Cabbage Patch Kids. Wow, Cabbage Patch. Yes, we'll sell those. Brilliant. Make millions of dollars.
Star Force is a fantastic top-down shooter that would kind of set the template for a lot of space shooters to come in the following years.
Star Force wasn't a big deal in the US, but it was a very big deal in Japan. It wasn't the first of its kind, but it really kind of established the genre there.
Gameplay is very simple. You take control of a little ship, and you have to defeat the Starbrain, basically, at the end of each level. All the levels basically look like space stations that are currently in the middle of construction.
Star Force was released in North America in arcades under the name Mega Force.
Really, the scrolling in the backgrounds was what added something to it, and we started to see this in previous years, but the more we start adding to the background, the more invested you become in the shooter.
I mean, my biggest memory of that is that it was one of the early releases on the NES. I mean, when Tecmo was one of the first publishers, third-party publishers, you would see like Mighty Bomb Jack and Star Force were big releases.
Star Force really was kind of the seed that started these, these grand space stories.
Karateka.
It's a pretty impressive game for the time. It started on the Apple II. The graphics, I believe, were rotoscoped, which was, allowed for very fluid animation.
When you did a kick, it wasn't like kick all of a sudden. You actually saw that fluid motion of like the kick going up.
It looks like a real guy running and doing his cool kicks and punches, and you're just beating up on other guys, and there's like a bird there or something. Is there a bird? I don't know.
Fluid motion for 84, of course, yeah.
But like multi-frames,
right?
Not
There's
just like on-off kind of kicking.
The game was created by Jordan Mechner while he was in school, and he went on to create a very similar looking and playing game in 1989 called Prince of Persia.
Prince of Persia also had the fluid animation that was found in Karateka, and that kind of carried over.
The goal of the game is to basically infiltrate a fortress and to rescue the princess.
At the end, if you go to rescue her and you're still in a fighting stance, she'll kill you in one hit. If she's that powerful, why didn't she just rescue herself?
It's also sort of a precursor to fighting games as well, much like Karate Champ.
She doesn't need you. She can kick your butt in one hit.
84, I guess, sees a lot of this sort of one-on-one combat. They want to explore how that can be done in a video game. And Karateka really lays the groundwork.
We played that game every day, and I played for a full semester before I was able to beat it.
But you did beat it.
I did beat it, and unfortunately I only got a C in that class.
The design of the game was influenced by ukiyo-e art, Akira Kurosawa, Seventh Samurai, and Disney.
But what are you going to do? Have a good grade temporarily,
right,
or beat Karateka? That
what looks better?
Forever. Yeah.
On my resume now I beat Karateka.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it would go on to get very popular and to be ported to other computers besides the Apple II.
Well, Karateka was born in New Haven, Connecticut, where Yale is. Just like me.
Yeah.
I was born in New Haven. And George W. Bush.
Yeah. Poor bastard.
Pac-Land by Namco is a fantastic Pac-Man game that is not at all like normal Pac-Man. Did you cringe? Why did you cringe?
I didn't cringe.
I think you cringed.
Previously, you had Pac-Man just munching dots. With Pac-Land, the gameplay kind of changed a bit, and it was more of a side-scrolling game where you actually saw Pac-Man with hands and feet.
Oh, mazes and puzzles. People don't want that anymore. Let's move Pac-Man into platformer world.
It was a side scroller. It was like Super Mario Brothers almost.
This is a very simple platformer. I mean, I can call it fun for like a minute. And then you kind of get, bleh. I mean, it reminds me of something like Mickey Mouse Capade on the NES.
Certain power pellets allow you to sustain air flight when you jump.
The game gets deviously hard later on.
It's one of those games where it's based upon a lot of it timing and speed. So the control scheme setup is you have 3 buttons. You have 1 button to go left, 1 button to go right, 1 to jump.
It was an interesting mechanic. You couldn't squash your enemies, but when you did get power pellets, you could run into them and into the ghosts that would turn blue and then they go away.
There's a lot of cool little things going on here. And again, it's based upon, I'm not a fan of the Pac-Man cartoon, but Pac-Land's fun. One of the interesting things about Pac-Land is that for some reason in Japan, they gave Pac-Man a giant schnoz, like Pinocchio. Not sure why. You know, if you look at the original box art, he didn't have a nose at all. He actually had feet too. That's neither here nor there. In the American version, they gave him a nice little small nose like mine. But never understood why they did that.
The graphics were impressive. I was like, wow, this looks like Pac-Man, and the music was Pac-Man from the cartoon. And
it's really bright and colorful and cartoony looking.
Well, it's based upon the Pac-Man cartoon from the year before.
It was almost like early cell shading. It was trying to emulate the cartoon.
And now, it should have been a video game in 1984.
Oh, hello, I'm Eric, and this is the stuff from 1984 that should have been made into a video game. But it wasn't. In movies, The Neverending Story. Not the 1986 text-based adventure game, but a game that would be very similar to Choplifter. Instead of riding in a helicopter, you'd ride on Falcor the Luck Dragon's back, because having a Luck Dragon with you is the only way to go on a quest. The goal of the game would be to chase bullies into dumpsters, but in order to avoid falling off, you've got to hold on with your big, good, strong hands. In music, Catch My Fall by Billy Idol. Catch people jumping out of a burning building with the always reliable trampoline. From the hit song Drive by the Cars comes a cab driving game where you chauffeur drunkards from the bar in this pre-GTA simulator. Following the industry-crashing promotional games of 1983 comes another one. From the popular Wendy's Fluffy Bun commercial featuring the famous catchphrase, "Where's the beef?" In this Atari 2600 game, very similar to Chase the Chuck Wagon, you'd run around the maze looking for beef while avoiding Burger King and McDonald's buns. Where's the beef indeed? Snorks, a ColecoVision game for the television series Snorks. They're not like Smurfs, they live underwater. The game itself would be a little bit like Smurf rescuing Gargamel's castle for the ColecoVision, but totally not like Smurfs because it'd be underwater. Snorks are not like Smurfs, they live underwater. Seriously. And that's what should have been a video game in 1984, and I would like to play them.